What? You said what?
Welcome to the Real Dealz Podcast, the consistently #1 real estate investing podcast on iTunes. This is the place to be in order to transform yourself from a hopeful investor to a highly skilled deal finder. Now, without further ado, let's get into the show.
Rise and shine, make you wanna say, dear God, let me thank you for another day. Been living life on the edge and I'm trying to break it. Tired of ducking the feds, but it's a struggle to make it. So this is your day, homie, now it's time to shine. Pay for players only cheap and we can wine and dine. Stress free from the drama, better get your ticket and come on, cause the squares can't lie to kick it.
What's up, everybody out there in listener land? This is episode 215, and as always, I am your host, Tucker Merrihew. I'm back this week. Got another amazing episode for you, but before we get into all that, make sure you checked out last week's show, or make sure you check out last week's show. I put together the keynote presentation that I presented at the Pacific Northwest Big Badass Real Estate Wealth Expo. It's a mouthful. And we stripped out the audio and we put it on as last week's main topic for our show. I got a lot of you guys reach out to us that said you really enjoyed that. So I'm glad to hear that not only did it go over really well in person, but that many of you guys out there in listener land actually enjoyed it thoroughly as well. It was a good kind of consolidation of all of the ideas that I talk about here on the show in terms of utilizing direct mail to build a marketing machine in order to generate deals in all different types of asset classes across the world of real estate investing. And there's all different types of assets within the world of real estate investing. It's just a matter of what it is that you choose to focus on. And for us, our main focus is the world of single-family residences and single-family redevelopment. But, that's not to say that you can't use these same skill sets in the world of multifamily, commercial, self-storage, all these things. It's just a matter of tweaking your message and tweaking that whom you are marketing to. So check that show out if you have not already, and I know you guys are going to dig it. Now, this week's show, I told you I'd be back with some interviews, and I've got a great interview for you this week. A gentleman by the name of Ramon Gonzalez. He's out of Miami, Florida. He's got a ton of energy, great guy. He was referred to me by Joe Evangelisti, which is a guy that we had on the show, maybe a handful of shows back. Really smart guy who runs a great business over on the East Coast, and he's in a mastermind group together with Ray. And so anyway, I got hooked up with Ray, and I'm glad that I did because he gave us a really solid show that really kind of dives into a business that I have not had on the show before. I always talk about the real estate ladder, and as you climb it, you have different ways that you can make money investing in real estate. And the way that Ray has done it, or is doing it currently, is he's basically investing in other operators and their projects, and then he generates a profit from basically funding their projects for them, but also providing them a lot of guidance, mentoring, and just being a tremendous sounding board for them along the way. And there's a lot of value to that to people who are in this business and basically need a funding partner that's more than just money. And so he's been able to build a really successful business, basically funding other operators, and it was really interesting to hear about how he built it and what that looks like from the inside, sitting in the chair kind of flying that plane, and what it looks like from the cockpit. So anyway, I know you guys are going to dig this show. One thing he did say to me, though, which I thought really rang true, and sometimes it takes a different person's perspective on yourself to really kind of see yourself for, how other people see you. I mean, I try and think that I have a fair bit of self-awareness. I know that's a big, phrase that's been thrown out a lot over the last year, but I like to think that I have a good amount of it. And, he said one thing to me as we were kind of doing this interview, and I was like, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. And I never really thought about it like this. So I credit Ray for, thinking about this, but also letting me know. And what he said is that, there's a lot of people that listen to the show, and a lot of the people that listen to the show are people that are actively doing this business every single day. It's not so much a rah-rah show for those that are just, sort of interested in the business, and I don't, pump them up and get them to take action and join a coaching program and then watch them fizzle out. It's more of a day in the life type show, right? Of somebody who's really doing this business every day, and those are the types of people I like to bring on as well. But the thing that Ray told me is, in order to really get this show, and I mean really get it, where like you really enjoy this show, and to get me, because obviously I'm the host of the show, you have to get this business. And I thought to myself, as people spend time in this business and actually learn it and understand it and figure out how it works, the more they do that, the more they are a fan of this show and, of course, myself. And so I thought about that and I said, you know what? That's right, because most interactions of people that really, really enjoy the show that I've had are people that have had sufficient time in the chair, kind of running their business, being in the world of real estate investing, being in the trenches, and then they get a lot of the things that I say. It's the people that maybe haven't had enough time in the chair that, maybe aren't as, don't find this show quite as useful, or they don't like the way that, I complain sometimes about some of the things that we go through because they haven't had some of those same challenges. So I think that it's definitely true that this show resonates a lot more with people who get me because they get this business. And so anyway, thanks, Ray, for shedding some light on that. I think it makes a lot of sense, and that's who we make this show for. So I'm glad that that's the case. But anyway, this week's show, great interview with Ray Gonzalez. We'll get into that here in just a second. Now, before we do, I want to go through a few things. Housekeeping items, of course, are the first thing that we always like to get through. Number one, and our biggest announcement, I'm glad to say we are finally there. Unlimited data for our Driving for Dollars app, both for the Android version and the iTunes version, is now available. So for $19.95 a month or thereabouts, you can get unlimited data. You can build as many lists as you want. You can pull all of the owner information for every list that you build, in addition to the previous sale date, all their mortgage information, so you know how much they owe, you know how much potential equity they have, and then, of course, you also get their phone number. And so there you can stagger a bunch of different marketing methods to the data that we provide you via the app, and trust me, we use it to the fullest here in my own business. So if you're not already, go check it out. Driving for Dollars app, the Driving for Dollars app. Our Facebook page is the best way to communicate with us. You like that page, and you can send us questions, comments, anything like that. We're manning that page virtually every day during business hours. So if you have any questions or need any clarification or billing issues or whatever, you can reach out to us through our Facebook page. And then, of course, you can download it both in the iTunes Store or the Google Play Store, depending on whether or not you have an iPhone or an Android phone. But for $19.95 a month, you can pull unlimited data, which means you can build as many and as big a list as you want every single month. So we look forward to having each and every one of you guys who are a listener as a customer of the app. Like I said, we use it in my own business here every single week, and I strongly suggest that you guys do as well. It's the foundation of everything that we've built, and at that price for what you get, let me tell you, it's cost us hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to build this app and get it there. So for $19.95 a month and none of the headaches of dealing with developers and all that bullshit, let me tell you what, you guys got a steal. So I would go take full advantage of that if I were you. Now, next thing I want to talk about real quick is our mastermind programs. We have our DFA and our DFA Launchpad. And so quick clarification here for everybody listening. If you're new to the show, our Deal Finders Academy is a mastermind that's basically $199 a month, and you join that mastermind and you essentially can rub elbows and correspond with high-level investors from across the country, from basically every major metro market across the country, each and every day. We have a tremendously valuable Facebook group where people are talking back and forth every day, giving advice, getting advice, posing situations, everything you can imagine. And the beautiful thing is that everybody that's giving advice and getting advice are high-level folks that are giving you quality information and advice back and forth. There's none of this, 8 million people in a group, and you get a lot of people who maybe flipped a house or two and now they think they're an expert giving you bad advice. We're talking about real legit players from all across the country, and they're all, more importantly, just really quality people. So if you have an existing real estate investing business and you want some competitive advantages, you want to be able to interact with people on a daily basis and not be such a lone wolf and feel like you're part of a family, then that is the community for you. It's a tremendous value, only $199 a month to be a part of this mastermind. It's $2,400 a year to be a part of a high-end mastermind. And we meet once a year. We have an annual meeting, but every single event that the real estate industry puts on, there tends to be a lot of those types of people or people that are in the DFA that are there, and it basically becomes its own family, which is really cool. And then, of course, we have our DFA Launchpad, which are for those of you that are newer to the business or are just getting started who want to get started. It gives you the roadmap for that, and it gives you all the tools that you need in order to make that happen. And then, of course, you also get a direct line of communication to myself and my entire team on a daily basis. So if you've been listening to the show for any length of time and either of those communities sound like they would be a good fit for you, we'd love to hear from you. Just reach out to us or go to the dealfindersacademy.com website. And if you want to join the DFA Launchpad, just reach out to us, info@therealdealspodcast.com, or we'll put a link in the show notes to both. And we'd love to make each and every one of you guys a member of one of those communities. Now, Quick little announcement here in regards to that. We've got those two communities, which we have our entry level, which is our DFA Launchpad, and then we have our high-end mastermind group. We will soon be rolling out a high-end coaching program, which is basically you get to work one-on-one with myself and Justin Silverio, who is a member of our DFA and also the owner of Open Letter Marketing. You will work directly with both of us for a 6-month term, and we will do all kinds of crazy things for you. But most importantly, we are building out a coaching program that mandates that you do the marketing, and the cost of the marketing is incorporated in the program. So we basically are forcing the hand of the marketing. We design it for you, we set it up for you, and we help you through the process. So I'll have more details for you guys on that coming next week. But I'm really excited. It's something that nobody has done in this industry. And basically what we're trying to do is eliminate the possibility of failure for as many people as possible that want to join that program. So keep your eyes and ears out for that, but I'll have more information next week. Lastly, that I want to mention to you guys is we're having a Negotiating with Sellers sale this week. So you'll probably get a few emails from us. Strongly advise you guys take advantage of that. This is our flagship product. It is everything that we utilize to talk with sellers on a daily basis. All the strategies, tactics, and how we engage with them in order to try and get the best possible price and do as many deals as we do that are as profitable as they are. There's really no magic to this, folks. There's just a specific way in which you should interact with people. There's specific information that you need to extract from them, and there are certain ways that you can do that while building rapport at the same time, and that's why we built this program. So keep an eye out for all of the promotional emails for that. If you have not invested in it, I strongly suggest that you do, and of course we'll have a link in the show notes for that as well. That's all the selling I have for you guys today. So now back to some of the content before we get into the interview here with Ray. So what's up with me and TTM over the course of the past week? Well, a lot would be the short answer, but to kind of extrapolate upon that, we had an appointment last week that it was a appointment for a property where it was a 1-bedroom, 1-bath property that was in a part of town that is now experiencing some new construction. And when we had an interaction with this guy initially, we framed the conversation, we got a price out of him, and then we went to go see him. And we went to go see him. I soon realized that he was a very specific type of seller. And so this whole lead and this interaction reminded me that really what it comes down to is that there are, only a few categories in terms of types of sellers. And there are certain types of sellers that you're never going to buy a deal from, or it's going to be very, very slim chance that you buy a deal from this certain types of sellers. And then, of course, there are other types of sellers where you will have a much better shot of buying deals from them, and that's probably where you'll buy your most deals. And so what I want to talk about here real quick is that type of seller that we are not buying this deal from. And so basically, we went to go see this guy. It was his brother's house. He had passed away, probate situation. And when the guy showed up, he showed up in his gold Mercedes, which anybody ever seen a gold Mercedes? I don't know why anybody in the world buys it. It seems like it's an old guy car, an old white guy car. That's like who buys a gold Mercedes. It just screams, I don't have any style, but I bought a Mercedes, so therefore I have style. But I don't know, ugliest color ever. But that point aside, he then starts talking to us about, all of the real estate deals that he's doing down south in a city down in Southern Oregon. And that if he lived up here, he would probably redevelop this property to kind of maximize the value out of it. And then he told us that, he's not even getting any of the proceeds of this, but he's the personal rep. Proceeds are going to his niece, who's got 4 kids, and blah, 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 blah. Well, I don't think I believe him in hindsight that he's not getting any of the proceeds out of this because he's a personal rep for the estate. So I think that's a bunch of bullshit, honestly. But what it did remind me is that you're going to run into sellers who you think that you can work a deal with, but they're really the guys that are kind of like, old school landlord types or old school investor types, very self-important type person. And what they're trying to do is play you the whole time that you think you're trying to play them. And so this is that exact type of guy. And once we met him, I was like, there's no way we're buying this deal. And lo and behold, we framed a price, we got the price, we presented him with the price the next day. And then all of a sudden he said he had an offer for like $50,000 higher. And he said that, would we come up like $35,000 above our initial offer and close in like 2 weeks as opposed to 4, because the other offer that he had was a 4-week close and it was like $50,000 higher than our original offer. And we said, well, of course not, because that would be asinine to, just now pay you $35,000 more than what we told you we could pay. And then he obviously wanted us to close quickly as well. So, but it reminded me of the types of sellers that you're going to run across. And this type of seller, which is the more sophisticated type seller who thinks he's kind of a know-it-all type character, he's very proud of whatever it is that he's done or his experience in real estate. When you run across this type of guy, just remember that you're probably not going to buy the property from him, because he's going to be the guy that doesn't mind wasting your time, and he kind of looks at it as a game, and he's going to play everybody against each other, and he's going to go until he gets somebody to tell him what he wants to hear or gives him the best possible answer, and he doesn't really give any credence to the fact that maybe that answer isn't going to be an answer that actually follows through, as in the fact that that offer may not actually ever come to fruition, and they may never come to the closing table, but he doesn't care because he thinks that he's winning the game. And so that type of seller, when you run across him, probably not going to buy a property from him. And this deal just reminded me of that. And we'll see. I think he's probably going to come back to us, and this deal isn't going to close. Or if it does, these people are absolutely insane for what they're paying for the property, which there are insane people out there paying stupid money for properties right now. But at the end of the day, if he comes back to us, I think he's going to play the same game that he played before. So if you run into this type of seller, especially the guy that drives the gold Mercedes, right? If you run into that type of seller, just be wary of the fact that you're probably not going to buy the deal from him, but that doesn't mean that you're a bad negotiator or a bad investor. It just means that it's highly unlikely that you're going to buy a deal from that type of seller. Beyond that, one other thing that I want to mention is I have decided, and I was talking about this in our mastermind group over the past week, I've decided that we are going to start building out our sticks and bricks business a little more. We've been about the same size for a number of years now, but I've decided that we're going to build out another arm. And it's a big undertaking, but I think it's one that it's time. And I think that this industry, it really doesn't have a lot of this for whatever reason, and I think that we can do it really, really well, and so that's why we're going to do it. And bottom line, I'll cut to the chase here, we're going to be adding another agent. For many of you, you know how we're set up, but we have our own real estate company that sells all of our projects. We have a situation set up where we're basically a net branch for a bigger company, but we're able to use the DBA at TTM Realty to sell all of our projects to help with our branding. And so we operate with the name of TTM Realty. Well, right now we just use that ability to sell all of our projects for basically a discounted commission. So, it works out well for the company, and it works out well for the agent that gets to sell our stuff, which is Chris. But what we're going to do now is we get a ton of leads that come into our business each and every week, and we're only able to monetize a very, very small amount of those. And we've also realized that in order to monetize more of them, we need a degree of separation between us, the home buying company, and a potential entity that can list and sell properties. And the handoff gets real iffy if you're handing off to somebody outside of your organization, and it gets real iffy if you're trying to sell them on selling you their house, but also then sell them on trying to list their house if for whatever reason you can't come to an agreement. So we're building outside of our business where we're actually going to have an in-house agent that all they do is work the leads that we're not going to be able to buy and try and create listings out of them. And it's going to be a really cool thing to kind of grow this arm of the business. And then, of course, we can use the fact that we're masters at direct response marketing to really ramp up the amount of listings that side of the business has, in addition to just working the leads that we have. So it's time to make that pivot. It's time to build out that arm of the business. I'm excited to do it, but we need to find the right agent that's the right fit. And so for any of you guys that are listening to the show, if you think that you might be that person, feel free to reach out to us, info@therealdealspodcast.com. Just email Dan and he'll put you in touch with myself. But we're going to start interviewing some folks over the course of the next week or so here, so that as we build out this side of the business, we're building it out with the right person, because that's the last thing I want to do is build it too quickly with the wrong person, have to replace them. I want to build it with the right person from the get-go, and it'll be a real win-win relationship for everybody. So that's what's going on with me and TTM over the course of the past week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed hearing about it. So let's get into our interview with Ray and the rest of the show. All right, Real Dealz podcast listeners, I want to talk quickly about our show's sponsor, Iron Bridge Lending. If you guys have not reached out to Iron Bridge already to talk to them about funding some of your upcoming flip projects, I highly encourage you to do so. I've known the owner of Iron Bridge for a very long time. I personally borrowed millions of dollars from them over the years to do a number of different projects, and I can say without a doubt, they are the best hard money lending company I have ever come across, and that is the reason why they are the sole sponsor of this show. I've had a lot of other companies reach out to me and want to sponsor this show, but I just won't do it. I feel like I need to be genuine in who we have sponsoring the show, and it needs to be somebody that I've personally done a ton of business with. So I personally vouch for their ability to be the best, hands down, in the world of hard money lending. You won't find better programs, you won't find better terms, and they're lending or will be lending in over 20 states. So chances are, if you're hearing this in whatever state you're in, it's definitely worth it to check out their website, reach out to them, see if they're lending in your state, and if they are, I would absolutely encourage you to do business with them. Another very cool thing to note is that they have a program for most rehabs where you can actually borrow up to 90% of the purchase price. Now, this is given the fact that you are actually buying a deal, which If you're listening to the show, that means you probably are. But if you have an actual deal on the table, they'll fund up to 90% of your purchase price, and they'll even give you rehab funds on top of that, which means that it only takes 10% down to get into a project, which is unbelievable in the hard money world. So do yourself a favor, reach out to Iron Bridge Lending, have a conversation with them, see if they're a good fit for you and for your next project. I can guarantee you that you'll be happy that you did. We've got Ramon Gonzalez here out of the Miami, Florida market, and he is the managing director and probably the big cheese also for Summit Homebuyers, which is based out of Miami, Florida, from what I can tell. My man David Martinez is actually down there as well. I don't know if you know him, but he's doing some big things down there also. And you're also the newly, well, I don't know how new, but the creator of the Miami Millionaire Mastermind Group. I'll try and say that 8 times fast and see if I can screw it up. But it looks like an impressive group of folks that you've put together recently that are probably helping take each other's businesses to the next level. So welcome to the show, Ray.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. I'm a fan of the show. It's nice to be on a show that you actually listen to routinely and look forward to. So I'm excited to be here and just add value to you any way I can. And I'm ready to rock and roll any way I can add value to your listeners.
Cool. Well, I'm kind of interested. I mean, I'm going to kind of treat this show / interview as, we can get to know each other a little better, and I can get to know, a lot more about your business. And then also we'll kind of segue into some of the education stuff and mastermind stuff. I want to kind of just talk about that topic overall as well. But maybe we start with, give myself and our listeners a little background about your journey thus far in the world of real estate investing, when you started, and, just what that road looks like.
Sure. Started working the corporate gig with Alex and General Electric. And then the corporate gig wasn't for me. I was there for 2 or 3 years in Connecticut. So I moved from Miami to the cold weather. It was miserable. I was born and raised sunny boy, beach volleyball, and went up there for 2 or 3 years. Great experience. I started buying and holding rentals up there and quit that job. Wanted to move back down to Florida. So I sold some of those rentals up there. Still have a few. Still got like 20 units up there in Connecticut. Moved back to Florida. Florida, I couldn't buy and hold. The numbers didn't work. So I started coming down here and just wholesale. And then continued to wholesale properties up until maybe 2008. Market turned. We were out of most properties. Still took some losses, but we were out of most things. Went cash heavy, just chilled for a couple of years. Played semi-pro beach volleyball. Got into some bodybuilding stuff. And then I kind of went back into the business, met my wife. And we got back into the business, started wholesaling, started buying and holding, started building out the team. And then we exited recently most of our holdings. And we started getting into the loan portfolio. I think that the loan, we were good operators. We didn't enjoy the operations, managing people. We didn't love that piece. We ended up thriving and investing in other operators. So understanding what a business is, what it takes to build one and grow one. And they were just better. So now what we do is we invest in them. So it's kind of like hard money, but it isn't. Like I have no problem funding their whole deal. Like I'm investing in them and that operation and that operator. I get the business. I get their overhead. I get their staff. I get the marketing because I used to run that business. And our model is very similar to yours, Tucker. We were doing maybe 20 deals a year, 20 to 25, and probably netting about $1 million.
Okay.
So we didn't need 100 people. So we were about, hey, every deal was different in terms of we'll close on the deal. We had liquidity. We had our own capital because we had sold properties. We'll close on the deal. We'll clean it out. We're not going to take on the rehab if we don't need to. Someone will give us 60% of the profit up front, and that rehab we won't. If they won't, then we'll rehab, right? So we had a project manager. I had acquisitions person. I had a transaction coordinator coordinate the whole thing. And then I had someone helping us on the sale end. So every deal was a little bit different in terms of what we're looking to maximize. So we're looking to maximize revenue and minimize headaches. And a lot of times it was just closing on it, putting it back on the market. Because the market's so hot, I would sell to these newbie investors who are smoking too much HGTV on their little pipe. and yeah, that's my own little word for them. And I sell to them for a premium. They pay 90% of ARV, 80% ARV, and they get all the funding from somebody else. And God bless them. And I'd have an REO model. So I'd put the property back on the market, like I was bringing inventory to the market. So it's just really adjusting the strategy. And you're gonna love this, Tucker. Adjusting the strategy for what the market cycle is giving you. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I see a lot of guys not making that adjustment. So someone like we spoke about earlier, the other guys here in Miami, a lot of them they're still wholesaling. I'm like, look. 2010, 11, 12, 13, as much as possible, you'd like to hold as much as during that cycle. Now, I caught that cycle late, but I still made a ton of money compared to them. And I'm not like trying to compete. That's not what it's about. It's just guys, you have to adjust the strategy and evolve in that. You're always talking about on your podcast, evolve in the real estate ladder, evolve on that curve. So a lot of guys don't go from business entrepreneur. They think that, hey, I'm a real estate investor. No, you're an entrepreneur, and your product happens to be real estate. You're in a business. A real investor puts up dollars and gets the hell out of the way. And there's no right or wrong. I think you can do both.
Yeah, I like that. I think it really simplifies things. I know for us, this podcast isn't about me, but we've definitely identified where we're at in the market cycle right now in terms of, I like how you said you basically would bring inventory to market and almost treat it like you were, selling REOs, right? I like that idea. And for us, when we're generating deals now, if it's not a full gut rehab, like if it doesn't have to go full gut, it's a clean it and make it financeable, make it clean, sell it operation, And like you said, there's a lot of people smoking the HGTV pipe that will pay 80 to 90, cents on the dollar of full ARV for something that, really isn't going to make any money, but you're selling the dream. And there's a lot of people out there buying the dream. So there's no reason not to sell the dream right now.
That's it. And I love what you're saying. Like, because inventory at the low price point, the FHA buyer down here is really like 200 or 300. You're at under 5 months supply. In Fort Lauderdale, you're at 4 months, and Dade County, you're at almost 6 months for single family houses. No one's building that stuff. So you don't have to make it that nice. I mean, it's got to be nice and presentable to sell, but you don't have to deck it all out. So yeah, we would do that when it makes sense. But if it needed too much work, if it was under 15, 20 grand, we would do it ourselves. If it was more than that, the extra risk wasn't worth it. So like and you'll love this because you got an econ background. As the market gets harder and harder, the marginal return for the additional dollar investment in the rehab becomes lower and lower over time. Like, it doesn't make sense for you. The rehabbing in this part of the cycle is becoming a commodity.
Yeah, that's true. And that's a good way to put it too. I mean, I remember when we were renovating a lot of entry-level houses in Portland, which, entry-level back in 2009, which is when we really started cranking volume, was like 199,000, right? We'd rehab stuff, we'd sell it 199,000 and just bang it out. But we had to make it like pretty Mac Daddy for a 199 house in order for it to sell on the market. Well, right. The market's a hell of a lot different today in 2018 than it was in 2009. And so now that entry-level house, that price point is very different here in Portland. It's 199 doesn't exist anymore. You can't buy a cardboard box for 199. But, you don't have to create that Mac Daddy product at that entry-level price point. It just has to be clean and livable. And clean and livable gets you pretty much all the way to 100 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, or right close to it, because and no one's competing at that price point either. No one's building new inventory there, so there's very little risk. Our market's starting to soften. The moment you cross that FHA mark, that FHA threshold, it's no man's land really. And then obviously the guys that have wealth down here always have wealth. But
right.
But yeah, so that's what we did, and then we saw the strategy to get out and get passive. We didn't really like managing the rentals, so we scaled. We got out of the rentals, and now we're doing some passive investments, whether it's through a syndication with somebody else or a loan or a JV. We'll put up the money. We trust the operator. We know what they're doing, and we do that together.
Now, a lot of these operators that you're working with, are they single family guys? Are they doing multifamily stuff? What do you look for? Or is it more about
most of them are doing singles? Okay. Yeah, most of them are doing singles, and they have a team. Like a couple of guys I had to just stop working with, just great guys. Just they didn't want to scale out. They didn't want to build a team. They couldn't keep money out. Like someone like in your organization, the guys that you work with that kind of lend you money when you're building that out, they loved you because you can keep that liquidity. You can keep money out. As soon as you pay something off, something else is going on, right? You can keep that money churning for them. But, the smaller guys, the mom and pops, they don't have an organization. They're not committed to growing. They're not committed to growing themselves. So a lot of the guys I end up meeting through a mastermind. And I find if a dude's willing to be open and vulnerable and just share what's really going on, not just in business, and I can add value through all the stuff and that I've been through and through other operators that they've been through, and I can connect them and add value more than just money, that's where it's a total win-win for all sides.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So what kind of, I'm not looking for exact fees and all that you charge them, but in terms of arrangement, is this like you guys usually get paid off in full at disposition when the project sells, or are you taking interest payments along the way? What does that look like when you fund these types of deals to people?
Great question, man. It's completely relationship based. I only have maybe 10 or 15 guys I work with. So some of the guys will say, listen, I'm building up my team right now. Monthly cash flow is a problem for me. So, hey, if you could defer the payments today, I'm like, listen, this is a straight finance 101. I'll do that, but you're going to pay a couple more points on the rate, and you're going to pay them on the back end. Are you cool with the risk? and I go, yeah, all right, cool, let's do that. But really, I'm really looking at their character, their competence, and lastly, I'm looking at the collateral.
Right.
So some of these deals I don't like at all. Like I do not want that deal back. But these operators are so good in that niche that, dude, like they're just like, this is what they do. So I have to respect that once the core values are all set. And you know about that stuff, Tucker, with the core value stuff. Like, you can't do a good deal with a I was gonna say a shit person, but
hey, we swear on this show, so it's all good.
I promised my wife. She goes, please don't swear. I know you're excited, but please don't cuss. So, yeah, man. I find that the guys that'll take that third shift at BK if something went sideways, those are the guys you want to loan to, and usually those guys are outgrowing themselves. They know they have issues. They know the entrepreneur has a lot of. Everyone's, this freedom, this and that. Dude, this freedom comes with a lot of other shit, with anxiety, depression, a lot of other shit that no one's talking about. And I'm, dude, like, I have a lot of great days, and some days, dude, I just, like, what do you call it? A shit sandwich? You get hit with the, on your podcast.
We all have fuck it all days, right? So the
yeah. But you said you get hit with a I forgot what they call it. Yeah, you got served a shit sandwich is what you call it. But dude, it happens to us too. You just keep moving forward, and I think a lot of guys out there now looking at the entrepreneurs that started the game, they just think it's all sunshine and rainbows, and they don't want all of it that comes with it. Cutting checks, payroll, hiring people, managing, creating procedures for your own team, how you want your business to look like. They want to take something that a guru has and just plug and play. That shit does not work.
Yeah, there's actually a real business you have to build behind this if you want to sustain, which is, I think, the one thing a lot of people don't get. And you're right. There's, if I look back from where I am today, if I took a snapshot of me, let's say in 2007, 2008, and I fast forwarded myself to what I'm running today, I'd probably be in the corner rocking and crying in a ball, right? Because there's a growth process that occurs in being able to handle the stress, handle the anxiety, and it still punches us in the face some days. But that's part of the growth process as an investor and as an entrepreneur. And you can't buy that from a guru course. That's the path and the journey that you have to go on personally. You can't buy that from somebody. And now you can have a mentor that helps you along as you hit the tough spots, but you've got to go on that journey by yourself, and you got to sign up for that.
Yeah, you got to do the work and then know that you're signing up for all of it, because otherwise you're signing up for a job. If you're not signing this up to build out a real business and get out of this and really create systems, procedures, and process and level up people, like one of the biggest wins you could have is someone in your team, really becomes financially free, because now you know that you and your business have made it, and not because of you, but because of the systems, the procedures, right? Everything else that you put into your business, and some because of you, because the business is you on a plate, pretty much. It's a reflection of the owner. But I just see a lot of guys out there just wanting to take whatever system that someone else is talking about and not make it their own. And I'm all for swiping and getting leverage. At the same time, you have a unique personality, a unique ability, and you have certain things you're great at, and that's going to be the direction your business needs to head at, and that's going to be a reflection of you. And when you try and copy a model that somebody else has, that may not work for you. Chances are it's probably not going to work for you.
Yeah, that's a good point. So basically, then right now, it sounds like you're removing a lot of the stress that this business can put on you. Not all of it, because there's always going to be inevitably some. But as the operator, especially in the world of single family, there's the daily minutia, the daily grind, and the daily punches that you take to the chin. So it sounds like you're kind of removing that out of your life by funding a lot of these operators and acting essentially as a money partner. Is that kind of what I'm getting here?
Pretty much, yep, exactly. I look at myself more like a money partner, like how do I help them win? How do I help them collaborate? If I can help them with anybody else. And because I'm not in the business day to day, I have a lot of relationships where guys will open up to me. They'll share whatever's working with them, and then I can just share that with somebody else and help them, help everybody win. So that's one of the big things. And then there was something else I wanted to say in terms of the team and day to day, but it'll come to me. Well,
why don't I
one
set
of the
you up?
things too.
How about this? How about maybe, with the way that your business is structured right now, what does that team look like? How do you operate on a daily basis? Because I'm assuming you don't need that big of a team to operate the way that you do. It's more about personal relationships and just, building those out. But what does that team look like, and how do you operate on a daily basis?
So right now it's me, talking to my partners and seeing what they have coming up. Out of my first mastermind, a couple of guys came up to me and said, "Hey, listen, we'll give you a piece of our company if you serve as the visionary of our company." I go, that's all I want to do. If I can be the visionary and you guys day to day, and I can give you some coaching, mentoring, give you all my systems and procedures and you guys go hire and execute, I'm interested. And I could do like a couple of times a week on the phone with you guys for an hour and just kind of go over things. So I'm doing that. The loan piece, I might spend an hour a day on the loans, depending on what's coming in, coming out, and what people need. And that's just me on the loan piece. My wife helps with some of the books. And then I have a CFO kind of look over high level. He just left today. P&L balance sheet. Before anything leaves here, I want to make sure our books are, you and I have that in alignment. I want to make sure our books are right and that we're looking to really maximize the after-tax rate of return. After-tax, not just after-tax rate of return, but also risk-adjusted rate of return. So after-tax, risk-adjusted rate of return. That's a good one there for you to say a few times.
Yeah. So, and maybe explain that a little bit so that our listeners can kind of conceptualize what you're talking about with that.
Sure. So what you're looking at, guys, when you look at a deal, everyone's looking at, I get all this return. But yeah, how do you mitigate the risk? Because in order to kind of really amass a lot of the wealth, and you study the wealthy guys, they've made a lot of great hits, but they've also covered the downside first. So if I could place $100,000 and the borrower is putting down 50%, and I can make a 10% return on that, that's a great deal for me, even though the rate's not that low. Okay, well, I have somebody else I can loan them, the same amount, but I have to loan everything, and now I'm loaning them 18% return. I might still do that deal, but on a risk-adjusted basis, I'm taking a lot more risk for that extra marginal 8%. So right. You have to look at, and that's how you should look at deals too. Like every deal we would look at our business, we weren't looking to scale. We weren't looking to be a huge operation. We were looking to maximize each deal. So each deal, each neighborhood had a unique characteristic, and then how do we maximize that without taking on a whole lot of risk? And considering also the time value of money, how quickly am I going to get paid back? And then if you could do these vehicles through an IRA or a solo K or hold it over a year, or even some of Tucker's strategies in terms, I learned that from you, using a 1031 for your, for some of the residences. If you sell something, you buy your own property and then live in it after a certain period of time. We didn't do that, but I thought it was a great strategy. Or living it yourself. There's a lot of things you can do. I think a lot of guys are paying high tax rates that they don't understand. And my suggestion to them is really, dude, how dare you not know? Like, you're just being a bad financial steward of capital, really is what you're doing. Like, you need to understand, because your CPA may be great, but the reality is he does not have a vested interest in you paying less. So you have to, I'm not saying you have to be a CPA, but I have a full financial team when they come to Mastermind. I have a CPA, I have a CFO, I have an IRA solo K coach and administrator who runs that piece. And then I have an IRA solo K attorney when shit goes sideways and I got to figure out something more complicated. And again, they don't run me, I run them. So they tell me, hey, you're pushing it here. Hey, you're gray over here, but you're running that ship. You're running that financial ship. You're the captain. Now they're your advisors. Don't take it the other way around. And if someone's not fit to be on the team, you got to get rid of them. And it's happened, especially with the CPAs. Some of these CPAs, they don't want to evolve. They don't want to continue to grow. They get comfortable. And as your business evolves, you got to step it up.
For sure. Yeah, I'm very fortunate in the sense that my CPA personally and for the company for the last, since its inception, was my old college roommate. So we're on we're able to have those conversations that most people are like, I don't know, can I ask him that? That thought doesn't even cross my mind. It's more about, hey, what do you think about this? And he's like, well, yeah, I guess that's okay. But you want to structure it like this, right? So that's helped a lot. But I think more importantly, the biggest piece of advice that I ever got in terms of taxes, and you can't do this completely, but you can get pretty damn close when you're self-employed. You want to pay taxes on the amount of money you save each year, not the amount of money you earn. And I think that's a big thing that most people, when you're a W-2 employee, you're paying taxes on what you earn, not what you save. And because of that, you end up saving jack shit, really. That's just the way it goes. So, that's been an adage that I've lived by for a long time, or a motto, and it's served me very well. Now, in terms of my personal residence, like you mentioned, yeah, I've done that 5 times in 15 years, and I just finished building what hopefully will be the last one in a while. But by doing it 5 times in 15 years, I built up enough tax-free capital to be able to pay for the house that I now live in full. And, it's another way to make money, but it's the best way because it's tax-free. And if you've got the ability to do it, there's no reason not to, especially if we're in real estate.
Yeah, I agree. And, one of the things I like about what you guys say and what you guys do and that we started doing when we were building out the business pretty aggressively is money makes life easier. When you can close on a deal, I end up finding I negotiate better. I negotiate better terms. I can sell it for more because I'm closing on it. My team was more confident. So it's not just me, my whole team. It just went through the whole organization. And then what you ultimately can build is a business that has consistency. When you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off, trying to wholesale something, and then people trying to take that deal from you and getting 15 contractors through the property, guys, people know that you're looking to wholesale a deal. They're not stupid. So when you can be honest with someone and you own that you can buy their house in a day or two, and they know that, they'll come play ball with you. And so we would always get better deals. We could close quickly. We never lost a deal. We honored our integrity with the seller, and it just made my life and business easier. And if I didn't like the offer that a buyer made, we could just wait. Whatever. Money makes life easier. It should.
It does, and I would imagine, by setting up the relationships that you have with a lot of these operators, it makes them better business owners too. Because I know when we're, flush with capital to do things with, it makes me a better business owner, makes me a better negotiator, and it just makes the business run better. So having, people that are able to come to you and say, hey, I've got this deal, I've got that deal, and you're like, let's do it. It makes the whole machine run really well, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I've always been a guy to add value. I never wanted to just be the money. Like, I help a lot of these guys, believe it or not, Tucker, a lot of these guys come to me for like other pieces, like the mindset piece, and not that I have all that shit figured out either. I'm a student in the game just like anybody else. It just happens to be that when they call me, my game's tight. I'm hitting threes like Steph. I know you play a little ball, so I'm just on fire when they call me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So man, but just grateful, man. Just grateful to be able to really help them, because if they win, we win. It's not. I don't look at them as like, so if we're having like if one of my guys is saying, hey Ray, I can find a better deal somewhere else, like, he really isn't my guy, and I don't have a judgment against him. It's just he should probably go somewhere else, because I'm more relationship based and long term based, and make it easy to do business with me. So like, advances, dude, I'll just give you the money up front. Like, how much is it? It's 40 grand. Okay, here's the money up front. Just like, if I can't trust you with 40 grand, we shouldn't be doing the deal.
Yeah.
And again, they've earned this, and not in the first deal either. They've earned that over time, right? So if I'm going to be easy to work with, I expect you to be loyal, and I expect you to grow, and I expect us to be a long-term piece, and you to keep capital at play. And I also expect a higher rate of return.
Yeah, and in full disclosure, I mean, with what we have going on here, we're doing a lot of pretty big baller price point new construction. And so I had to go out and find, we haven't built up enough capital of our own, nor would we want to use it all anyway. But to do, as many big baller projects as we have going on, I had to go out and find a piece similar to you, except for the fact that they really they don't give me anything other than money. And the return for me is that I have to keep, $4 or $5 million in the streets at play at any given time, so that I can compete with, handing that off to some type of a fund that gives hopefully a decent rate of return on an annual basis, and it's not money in, money out. But for me, that's worked out well. But for the guys that you're working with, what types of projects are you looking at, or them? What do you want them to do, or what's like the perfect inside the box Ray project for an operator that you've got a relationship with? Do you say no to projects ever, or is it more you say no to operators and you give them the leeway to take on the types of projects they want? What does that look like in your thought process?
Yeah, great question. So if I like the operator, so first, I like guys that invest in themselves. I usually meet them through a mastermind. I usually get to know them and their issues first, which is nice, because if someone's willing to share that with me, it's indicative to me that if something were to go sideways, which we do, and it happens, they'll come to me and talk to me. Hey, Ray, we got an issue. How do we figure this out together, man? What's going on? What do you need from me? That's the kind of conversation I want to have if and when something goes sideways. Hey, I need more time. Okay, well, what's going on? What's the issue? All right, I'll give you more time. So that's one. Once that hurdle's met, then I look at their competence, I look at their team, make sure that's a fit. And then I look at their model. So some of the guys I fund have a turnkey model. So what I like about that model is I fund their buy, I fund their fix, and then when they sell, but they usually can sell within 3 or 4 months, so it keeps liquidity high. The downfall is a lot of pain in the butts for 20, 30 grand mortgages. So, but they can pay a higher rate. So I said, all right, good guys, I'll fund those deals, but I need at least 5 or 10 houses at a clip. And so we ended up doing that. So I'll have 2 or 3 guys like that. And then on the other side of the spectrum, I have a couple of guys that do your standard 150, 200 grand buy, fix up for 25, and then resell for 300, right? I'm in Florida. I'm in Philly, Ohio, and I just kind of got started in Memphis with
cool.
the turnkey, with one of the turnkey guys.
Very cool. Now, in terms of, because I know there's a lot of people that are probably, they would love to continue climbing the real estate ladder and end up with what your business model looks like right now, because it's a very appealing one on many levels. But in terms of protections for yourself, what kind of paperwork do you put in place? Are you taking first position deeds of trust against these properties? What does that look like for you?
Yep. First mortgage, we get insurance. We get insurance on the property. We're named as the insurance. Make sure title and lien is clean. We make sure that, again, that they're great operators. We check all that. We run a background search. Even though I know all that's what I was doing this morning. I ran a couple of backgrounds on a couple of guys. And you know what, Tucker, the great thing I like is I actually like a guy that's got some shit on his background. Like one of the guy had like an attempted murder or something. Dude, the guy's a great guy. I know this guy, and he told me, he goes, Ray, here's what happened. Dude, I love that. Like, if you can tell me you've been through some shit, like I know if you can be in jail for 8 years and figure it out and come out with more money than what you came in with, and you can honor your word. Dude, I lent this guy on my first deal. I lent him 43. He just paid me 48 yesterday. So, I mean, it was out for less than 7 days. I go, listen, for it to go with my time, I need $5,000. Just because you need a quick deal. It's not really a loan. It's not really transactional. He said, all right, just do it. And again, just guys that are easy to work with, didn't complain about the fee, didn't complain, said, Ray, I need the money last minute. I'm calling you on a Friday. I need it now. Oh, I'll pay you $5,000. A lot of guys who's not my customers, I did that deal for other guys. And what some other guys might say is, shit, Ray, I had to pay you $5,000. Yeah, but you made 30. Why are you looking at my $5,000?
Right.
I want you to go make more money. And you called me on a Friday. I funded the whole deal. You didn't have anybody else. So again, it's that scarcity versus abundance mindset. And we talk a lot about it on the Mastermind. And it's not something I've mastered, the scarcity abundance, but I'm really learning the more I kind of meet guys and evolve that's a foundational structure, Tucker, that if a lot of guys come from that scarcity piece, they just never really thrive. It's crazy, brother, but it's all mindset, man. The more I evolve, the more I see it's all mindset, man.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I get a lot of people that have reached out to me over the last 4.5 years that we've been doing the show, and they say, dude, why do you tell people what you do? And every time I tell them the same thing. I said, man, I could get on here and I could tell everybody, even the most granular competitive advantage stuff that I do from A to Z, and 99.9% of people will not do it. And that's why I do it. And, a lot of people like to hear it. They like to think that maybe they can do it, but they won't do it. And so, it goes back to the point that I have an abundance mindset in terms of sharing it, but I know that it's not going to hurt me at the end of the day. And I think you're probably of that same opinion.
No, man, I even one of the borrowers I couldn't do a deal with just because he wanted a lower rate. I couldn't do it with my brother-in-law. I said, hey, my brother-in-law is looking for a lower return than I need. Just do the deal with him, and then whenever you want to put your big boy pants on and you want to grow, call me. Because all he's going to be able to do is fund a deal too. So a lot of guys say, hey, I'm going to go out and find this amazing, I'm sure you've heard of this, Tucker, the amazing doctor or dentist who's going to lend me money at 6%. Yeah,
right.
But what business are you really in? Are you in the money raising business, or are you in the let's get a fucking deal and flip it and make some money? Because you could save from 15% to 8%. Let's say you get that 8%, but you're gonna have to handhold that guy. You're gonna have to take him shopping, buy his kids cookies, explain to him the whole process. I mean,
you know what that looks like, Ray? I'll tell you what that looks like. That looks like guaranteed rate of return. That's what I have set up, right? We've got $4 or $5 million at a low rate, but that comes with baggage, and that baggage is guaranteed rate of return over an entire year, right? And buying cookies and hand holding and meeting with people and doing all kinds of things. And so, yeah, it doesn't come without strength.
With all sorts of shit. It's not like a quick check and stroke. Hey, I need this today. Boom, check, stroke, done. That's not what it comes with. So if you guys are willing to have that trade-off, and again, the highest leverage point in your business is going to be marketing and hiring amazing people. Everything else that you're doing is a fucking distraction, because the money you're going to save, the marginal dollars you're going to save by borrowing a little bit cheaper, dude, you can more than offset by doing one more deal a year.
Yep. That's a good point. Very good point. All right. So I got a couple of, I got one question for you before we segue into some of the mastermind stuff that I want to talk about and market. Worst deal and best deal that you want to hash through real quick. I know I've got one of each, but I know people love to hear about this and kind of the things that you learn from both. What would those be for you?
You want to start with the dessert or the veggies?
Let's start with the veggies, and then we'll end with dessert. How about that? Yeah.
All right. The veggies I bought with a partner of mine. We bought an 84-unit HAP property contract, HAP. It was like a Section 8 government subsidized in Louisiana, not like Section 8 voucher for each tenant, but the whole property was on this program. Lots of government, lots of red tape, lots of bullshit, lots of drama, lots of people getting shot and killed in the property. And we bought it in 07 at the height of the market, thinking it was a phenomenal deal and that the owner was a professor at a school and he didn't know what he was doing, thinking we could do it better. And we got sold a story. 10 years later, or whatever it is, 10 years later, we haven't made a dime on that property. Investors haven't lost money because I don't let investors lose money. I've never had an investor lose money that was a dead investor, right? If they came in for equity, they came in for equity. They knew what was going on, but they haven't lost money either. So I ended up writing off last year because we had a lot of gains. I sold our portion in that business, and we ended up losing $364,000. And it's not the money that we lost, but all the time, the headache, the mental aggravation, the dealing with the government, the red tape, the bullshit, the REAC inspections, the certifications. Holy shit, fuck. I would have been better off at the height of the market, just sit on cash. And and to a certain extent, we are, just because I think that we're close to there. We do make plays. There's just got to be a lot of upside for the downside.
For sure. Yeah, and I think it's important to highlight those kind of deals, because those of us that have been in the game for as long as we have been, there are ones that just continue to remind you every day what a terrible decision it might have been to engage that deal. And, I've got one of those that I look at every day that hopefully we'll be building one of these years. But, we all do if we've been in the game long enough.
That's it. Guys, if you're not making mistakes and losing money on a few deals here and there, you're not pushing the envelope hard enough. You're not learning.
Yeah, for sure. So with that being the veggies, what's the dessert look like? What's that deal all about?
Dessert is, I bought an 18-unit building for direct mail, and I didn't think it was in as good as an area as it was. It was a lot better area, and then it wasn't until I actually met the brokers, I was direct with the seller, that he said, "You don't know what you have here." And I said that he's like, "You can get an extra $200 or $300 for rent. You can get, because of the little pocket it was in. It was in a corner, and it was in a single-family neighborhood. But I was using the comps across the street, and it was a whole other neighborhood. But I didn't know that. I knew the market, but I didn't know it was that much of a difference. And I was still in a hot pocket where there was a lot of tourists coming in. So I just bought this and it was like the last street you could have bought this deal on, right? So everything just kind of worked out perfectly. And we went in there, we did all the units, put about 10 or 15 in each unit, decked these units out. And then what I found out I was getting the tenant that couldn't afford $2,000 or $3,000 rents, but wanted to still be on South Beach, wanted to still be on Brickell, but be close to it. And I was close to it, and I can give him that. It was a 3-story walk-up. We redid everything. For the studios, he was getting $550. I ended up getting close to $1,200 for the studios by the time I was done. And then for the one bedrooms, he was getting $650, $750, and I ended up getting close to $1,300 for the one bedrooms. So it was a great deal for us. And I wasn't looking to sell it. We were looking to buy and hold. It was a 1936 3-story building walk-up. So older building. We didn't change the pipe, the plumbing, because it was just a big headache, or the electrical. But everything else we did do, except the roof. We had some structural issues. That was a nightmare. But we got it all done, and we netted a little over $1 million on that net. Well,
hey, that sounds like a pretty good dessert.
That's a very good dessert, guys. One dessert, I tell it to a lot of guys. This isn't a restaurant. This isn't a business where when they look at the direct mail doesn't work. No, you're not tracking it properly. You're not tracking ROI. You're tracking cost per deal. You're tracking the wrong fucking numbers. You don't know how to analyze. No one ever taught you financial statements. You don't know how to read what the plays are saying. You don't know how to read what the number is telling you. You don't track it long enough, and then you don't know where to reinvest those marketing dollars into, because you don't know what's working and what's not, because you're not tracking. So, and my point with that is, $150,000 deal pays for a lot of marketing. And so if you understand that at this game, we're not a Starbucks or McDonald's. We don't need volume. You can crush it with one deal, and the ROI is huge.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think a lot of people, they get stuck on that with a lot of things, cost for marketing, cost for a lot of things. And it's like, one solid deal pays for a bunch of, potentially some, we'll call them learning deals / veggies, right? Plus a lot of your operational costs, your build out costs, your marketing costs, all these things. And then, once you figure out how to do that, it's just a matter of rinse and repeat, and you just repeat that process over and over. So
or to look at, or to look at a cheaper way to get, guys, cheaper isn't always better.
True.
You're an investor. You track ROI. I'm gonna do cold calls. Guys, I'm not a fan or a fan of cold calls. What I'm saying, are cold calls your unique ability? Are you good on the phone? Are you a better marketer than you are a salesperson? If you're a better marketer, like I was a better marketer than I was at sales. I leaned into direct mail. It's just a lot of moving. And then track the right numbers and look at the right numbers. When you come from scarcity, you look at cost. What's my cost per deal? Who gives a shit? If my cost per deal is 6 and I can make 50, I will do that all day long. I'm not trying to cut down 6. I'm actually saying, my question is, how do I spend more? How do I spend more? Because if I can spend more and still make those numbers, does it matter?
I completely agree. I had a guy once that told me, and I do like this guy. You might know who, you might be listening, but he was like, I'm spending like $6,000 to get a deal. And I was like, yeah, but your margins are like $100,000. What the fuck is the problem?
Oh my God, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and I had to really tweak his thinking, but a lot of investors fall victim to that. You know, they see the cost and not the benefit. And you know, you got to get your head wrapped around that. You got to look at the numbers straight, and as you said, you got to read the plays properly.
Yeah, it goes back to that abundance piece, Tucker. You know, like they're living in scarcity and they're trying to cut costs. Like this marketing isn't a cost, it's an investment. Hiring people isn't a cost, it's an investment.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
You don't track it, so you don't know what's going on. Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So I want to segue real quick here. You touched on it briefly, and this is a topic that, you know, being that I've got an econ degree, and, you know, obviously you can't really use that other than to count, you know, beans for the government, or you can kind of use it as a general education in terms of being a business owner. But what is your feeling about the market right now? What does it look like in Miami, and what are you thinking? Nobody has a crystal ball, and nobody claims to know exactly what it's going to do. But what's your gut telling you over the next 12 to 24 months with the market?
I think it depends where you are in the overall market. I think there's a whole bunch of markets that are specific. So your market's different than mine. I think there is no such thing as the markets. All markets are local, and within that local market, you as an investor need to know what's going on. Very much similar to my tax answer. How dare you not know what's going on in the market? You're surfing in that market, and you got all your eggs in that market. How dare you? How stupid of you, that's the word, not to know what's going on, right? And then where to position, where to go find more deals, where can you pay more? Being strategic as this market starts to heat up. So in my market, anything under ARV, 400 grand, you're going to do well in. There is no new inventory. Fort Lauderdale's better than Miami. You're at 4.5 months supply. I have an econ degree too. Miami's a little bit, for single family, is a little bit slower, 5.5 months. Condos in Miami and Fort Lauderdale, it's 13, 14 months. So condos already, the condo market has already turned.
Oh, really? You got that much inventory for condo markets?
Oh, yeah. Condos there's a glut on the market, and they're still building more. So the condo market's going to turn first, always does. Yep. And then rents drop. A lot of guys don't understand that when the market does correct, rents do drop. They think that rents go up forever. This idea that trees go to the sky and that you can, affordability is going to be an issue. Debt's going to be an issue. And Tucker and I share this in common. Like, there's too much debt in the system. So when rates rise, or the Federal Reserve stops buying these treasuries, or China says, hey, you know what, we're going to sell some of these, or we're just not going to buy any more, rates have to rise to offset that. And there's nothing really anyone can do except print more money. So what you end up having, student loan debt is at high, auto debt is auto high. So I think it's going to be more of a debt thing than it is a real estate thing. But the debt affects your real estate. The debt the consumer has affects what they can pay in rent. So I think, I don't know what's going to happen. I do know that this is the second longest recovery in the history of the United States. So, and things don't usually, that when they go this high, I'm not a gloom and doomer. I'm certainly looking to take advantage of opportunities. And yet, when something doesn't make sense, when you're having people for the multifamily space pay a lower cap rate for a deal that needs a lot of value add than they would for something that's already turnkey, it just doesn't make sense. So we're getting to that point now where it doesn't make sense in a lot of markets. There is cash flow markets, you know, Detroit, Ohio, and I think you'll always do well in those markets if it's a cash flow play. So it really depends on where you're at, what's going on. But I do think that the next, you know, I was at a conference with Rich Dad, and we both follow, what's his name, the guy out of Connecticut. Yeah, Peter was there, dude. He's a funny guy when you meet him in person, dude.
Oh, I bet he's a character.
Yeah, dude. His wife was wearing like Louis Vuittons, like these are real. Like he was wearing like gold, like just a character, dude. Great guy. Anyway, but he's, you know, and then the head of Fannie Mae, the chief, Doug Duncan, the chief economist of Fannie Mae, was there, and kind of they're saying within 18 to 24 months things will be different. They'll expect a slowdown. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I think
I didn't give you a solid answer, but that's where I'm thinking, man.
Yeah, you know,
I'm being very conservative.
The smartest guys never do give me a solid answer when I ask that question because they know they don't know. So, but there's a lot of factors, like you mentioned, that are definitely going to be in play. It's just a matter of which one is the driver behind any type of a slowdown or potentially even an e-brake that gets pulled, depending on what that event, financial, economic event is that can trigger, market shifting. So we'll have to see, right? All right. So last question I want to ask you before we cut you loose is mastermind groups. Let's talk about those for a second. What do you feel about them? I'm assuming that obviously they're very important, but why should somebody find a mastermind group that they can become a part of, or one that fits for them, given that you think that they're a great idea?
So I'm not only a client. What is that thing? I'm not only a client, but I'm also a member, right?
I'm not only the president, but I'm also a client. or something.
Yeah.
Men's
so
warehouse.
I run my own.
Yeah.
So I run my own mastermind, guys, and I'm also part of a mastermind. So the advantage of running a mastermind is that I get all these rock stars and studs, and now I have a much better team. I'm starting to realize that I can connect with people at a high level, and then you can see that if you're not an ego-driven dude or dudette, you can see that there's people that are just, this is their unique ability. And then, yeah, you might have a good 3-point, but you line up with Steph Curry, you're going to find out that you don't, that you might have a better inside game. So when I started to surround myself with people that were really, really great, the top operators in that area, I found that, they're just better. Let me focus on what I do best. And what I do best is I connect people. I help people live in their truth. I help people identify things that they couldn't see in themselves. I'm very good at that. I'm very good at connecting people. I'm very good at raising capital. Once I get out of that and I start to manage people or build an organization day to day, I'm very good at coaching. So just knowing where you're great and you're not, that's something a mastermind group can help with. Also, accountability has been huge. And just being able to really know that, one of the things why I surround myself with guys that run businesses and are investors is you think that we're all unique. We're all going through the same shit. The same shit Tucker goes through. He gets hit in the face. I have kids. I have a wife. We're all looking to not balance. We're all looking to integrate this all and be the best we can. We all have shit days. We all have shit with our wives. And it doesn't affect my business. Dude, are you fucking kidding me? Of course it affects your business. You have a fight with your wife or you're not being the dad you need to be that you could be, or your health is off. We're whole beings, and we think that we're the only ones going through this, and we're not. Everyone has this very, very similar challenges, and someone has been there before that can help you so that you don't have to bang your head against the wall. The thing is, you don't know them, they don't know you, you haven't had any value to them, so there's no need for them to help you. But whatever you want, there's someone that can help you get it faster, easier, more elegantly if you just open yourself up.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that surrounding yourself with other folks that are kind of on the same journey, and are doing it at a high level, we've all had slightly different experiences and can definitely cumulatively help each other out, kind of fill the gaps when we run into these challenges, issues, whether it be business or personal. Because like you said, we're not doing this in a vacuum, right? We all, those of us that have families, significant others, and businesses, we all go through the same challenges. And, some are personal, some are business. Some are cash flow, some are taxes, all these things, they're all challenges that people have dealt with before you. And so there's just no reason that you need to go on this adventure by yourself.
And you get to leverage somebody else's team. So for example, at the event that I'm having here in May, my whole financial team is going to be there. Dude, I had to find my asset protection guy. I went through 10 attorneys. This guy's a rock star. You're not going to find anybody better, bar none, right? And he's not selling you a guru tape and course. He's just a regular dude there coming to learn like everybody else. My CPA, my CFO. I went through tons of guys to find these right guys. So there's value in who's not in the room equally as enough as who is in the room, right? So there's value in that network. And I'm still saying do your due diligence on that person. But if I'm using him, chances are that it's a good fit. And then the other thing too is, I know you play some sports and kind of work out. Like on that space, my whole group who I work with now is playing ball at a high level. So for me to kind of just, and again, I'm not comparing myself. For me to just be on the court, I gotta bring it, and that's what I expect. And if one of them don't, they're out, and they know that. And it's not like a competitive thing. It's how do you live to your fullest capacity? How do you be the best you can be? That's what it's about. And then they just push you.
Yeah, I completely agree. You surround yourself with folks that are pushing themselves and trying to accomplish, what's the quote? My favorite quote. Here it is. It's man's greatest burden is unfulfilled potential by Dan Pena. And I like to surround myself with other people who maybe they don't love that quote quite as much as I do, but they operate on a daily basis with what that quote means. And there's a lot of power in surrounding yourself with people that operate on a daily basis like that.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I started doing this mastermind is because Joe called me literally, I was on a call with 20 other guys. He called me a pussy. He goes, you've been talking about this thing for 2 or 3 months. You haven't done it. He goes, just fucking do it and do it in 2 weeks. Do it in 2 months. Dude, I almost threw up. But he called me out in a good way. He wasn't trying to be a douche. And, dude, what ended up happening is I was able to help 20 amazing guys take their whole life to another level. And that wouldn't have happened if somebody else had pushed me and believed in me in that moment.
For sure.
I always had it within me. To do that. I just wasn't doing it. And I think we all have that. We live below our potential because, you know, we get comfortable.
Yeah, we get comfortable. That's right. And sometimes you got to not sometimes, you should surround yourself with people who, you know, if they think you're comfortable, they're the ones that are, you know, holding the cattle prod or you know what. So.
Yeah, they see the true you. They see that you're better than that you're better than what you're living.
For sure. Well, hey, I think we had a tremendous conversation here. We touched on a lot of really cool things. You know, I'm really excited to have had you. Now that I understand your business model, it's really cool because it fits. You know, I always talk about the real estate ladder, and you know, you've gravitated to the point that's very high up on that ladder in terms of how it is that you generate income via real estate these days. And it's cool to have heard about that, and I'm sure our listeners feel the same way. But for those of our listeners that want to, you know, maybe consume some more of your content, follow you, connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Best way is to go to MiamiMillionaireMastermind.com, and you can kind of sign up there. I have a weekly email that goes out. I do a weekly Facebook Live where I just share content. I share what's going on. I have some, you know, special guests on here and there. So those are the two best ways. And I'll send you my Instagram stuff so you can kind of follow me. It's the official Ray Gonzalez on Instagram. And I'm always out there, you know, publishing great stuff, seeing any way I can help. That's really it. And, you know, one of the things, Tucker, I love most about the loan portfolio that I didn't love as much about the rental portfolio is the cash flow isn't as high and the taxes are higher, but it's consistent.
Oh, yeah. And
it's a lot less headaches. I can manage a $2 or $3 million loan portfolio, but not a whole lot of time.
Yeah, it's if you have the right operators, it's like a phone call a week, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, there's some tracking here and there, but it's not as you know. I just remember the rentals when we were buying value add, you were fixing up, you're managing tenants, and yeah, you made, you know, it was a huge balance sheet play, right? Guys, wealth, and Tucker, I love this. Wealth is built on the balance sheet. I see a lot of these guys just be transactional and wholesale. You'll never build wealth that way. Forget about it. If you're not putting shit on the balance sheet, you are never going to build wealth.
No. And that's true. And there's a lot of guys that run big wholesaling operations, but, you know, they make great income. But, you know, again, at the end of the year, you're paying taxes on what you're earning, not what you're keeping, you know. So,
yeah.
Well, hey, Ray, I want to thank you for joining us. I'm glad you reached out, and I'm glad Joe hooked us up. And it was a really cool conversation. It was awesome to get to know a little more about you and also how your business runs. So definitely want to thank you for taking your time and kind of pulling back the curtain for everybody.
Dude, I want to thank you for continuing to, you know, drive the content. I'm almost like a big fan. I'm almost like, I was telling my wife, I was like giddy. I was like excited. I was like, holy shit, you know? Man, I'm really proud of what you guys are doing. I love the podcast. I'm an avid listener. When Joe told me, he's like, you know, Joe's like, oh, I'm going to be on his podcast. And I go, what? You know, like, he's like, I didn't really listen to it, but I was a huge fan. I've been following you, you know, what you're doing, because I love the message. It's real, it's authentic, and it needs to be said. So just keep doing it, man. I love it. I love the transparency. I love the authentic. I love it. So keep doing it, brother. I'm proud of you.
I love having you as a fan, and even more having you as a guest on the show at this point. So appreciate your time, and myself included. I'm sure everybody really enjoyed this episode. So thanks again. Much appreciated. All right, guys, what did you think of that interview with Ray? Pretty damn good interview, huh? Like I said, the guy brings a lot of energy. He's just raw, he's real, which, of course, that's the brand that we put out. That's what I'm all about. There's a lot of, I have noticed there are a lot of podcasts out there now where people try to be very raw and they drop a lot of F-bombs, and I drop them occasionally as I feel they're absolutely needed. I don't overuse them by any means, but we try and put out a real product, hence the Real Dealz podcast. And I think Ray is also a very real character, and that's why I like having him on the show. And we had just a great conversation from one operator to another. He operates in a slightly different niche of real estate investing in terms of how he generates revenue and makes money, but it's still fun to have that conversation from one operator to another, and there's a lot of synergy there. So hopefully you guys felt that. I did, I know, while I was doing the interview, and like I said, he's a great guy, and he's running a great business. Now, before I leave you guys this week, I want to give you a closing success quote, and this week's closing success quote is by Ray himself. I'm going to, piggyback on what I mentioned in the intro to the show, but the quote from Ray was, "You have to get this business before you get you." He's talking about me, right? And so I think that's a great quote, and I think that if you get this business, you'll get me and you'll get this show, and hopefully that's why you guys are listening. All right, guys, this wraps up episode 215. I'll see you all next week.
Listen at the bando, a nigga jury real metal like a piano. I went from rad to riches to a feature with tip. I went from smart car to a bitch with some smart lips. And that if an need make my hip limp. I'm going fishing with these little bitty strip dips. And my bankroll kinda big dip. Woo, she gon' bring it on a big ship. Quite trail, no quick trip. I got dubs in the alley, no tip. Yeah, man. She just wanna have a good day. Smoke way more weed than the guy in LA. I hold them birds till next May. Never let them fly away. What? Hey, this is what my nigga Tip say. Hey, yeah. Don't be blowing me up, nigga, I ain't getting up. If it ain't about the money, ain't no use to you ringing my line. Stop wasting my time. If it ain't about the money, nah, I can even hear what you say. I ain't finna do shit. If it ain't about the money, bitch, you can miss me with it. Bitch, nigga, miss me with it. Turn it. I pack in 11, I pack in 11. Boom. I ran in the gator, my shoes are just 7. I'm slime like the reverend, I shoot at the reverend. Hey, hands out the grocery store, they stuff with ladies. Hey, she try make the extras, I tell on these bitches. Hey, when it's about time to pay, I'ma bill on these bitches. What you think we in the neighborhood for? Standing at the corner store with a pocket full of dough. I be damned if a nigga wipe a hood, ho. Learned that from UGK, back a pocket full of stone. With your money down like a buck of hard folk. You playing with it, I'ma send them through your car door. My wife flooded shit sick, got Pavo. I'm doing it for black and yellow, free hardo. The head honcho, nigga, no tonto, nigga. I'm quick to put some bricks in the Bronco, nigga. Nigga talking shit while I don't respond at all, nigga. No murder, no dough, no combo, nigga. Don't be blowing me up, nigga, I ain't getting up. If it ain't about the money, ain't no use to you ringing my line. Stop wasting my time. If it ain't about the money, nah, I can even hear what you say. I ain't finna do shit. If it ain't about the money, bitch, you can miss me with it. Bitch, nigga, miss me with it. Turn it. I pack in 11, I pack in 11. Boom. I ran in the gator, my shoes are just 7. I'm slime like the reverend, I shoot at the reverend. Hey, hands out the grocery store, they stuff with ladies. Hey, she try make the extras, I tell on these bitches. Hey, when it's about time to pay, I'ma bill on these bitches. Hey, what you think we in the neighborhood for? Standing in the trash like good blow. Made a baby, you slang that crack. Ride stole the car while he bang that act. If you ever took a law, better bring that back. Catch it with your bitch, he gon' blow your brain back there. Ay, you know you better be on your bad behavior when address me. Because by gun, we don't let them be. Nigga, disrespect me, I'ma catch a felony. For real, if you listen, I can get you paid. But not interested in shit you say. If it ain't about the money, nigga, don't be blowing me up, nigga, I ain't getting up. If it ain't about the money, ain't no use to you ringing my line. Stop wasting my time. If it ain't about the money, nah, I can even hear what you say. I ain't finna do shit. If it ain't about the money, bitch, you can miss me with it. Bitch, nigga, miss me with it. Turn it. I pack in 11, I pack in 11. Boom. I ran in the gator, my shoes are just 7. I'm slime like the reverend, I shoot at the reverend. Hey, hands out the grocery store, they stuff with ladies. Hey, she try make the extras, I tell on these bitches. Hey, when it's about time to pay, I'ma bill on these bitches.
What you think we in the neighborhood for? Standing at the corner store with a pocket full of dough. I be damned if a nigga wipe a hood hoe. Learned that from UGK, back a pocket full of stone, nigga.